And it's because they know that our buddy Zim Hude is in the house today. Zim, it was great seeing you in person at the game the other night. And you posted that video I saw on Twitter of us giving the fist bump right up against a glass partition. You with all your high roller friends on one side, me in the lower income section next door. I mean, you run with a big-time crowd, man. I mean, you're up there in the skybox. Your wife is just so adorable, by the way. I know I'm going off on a tangent, but I really enjoyed meeting her, meeting you. It was great to see you that night. That was a fun atmosphere.
That was a great atmosphere. I feel like, isn't that crazy? You know, we didn't plan this or anything. I just look up and I'm like, oh, there's Tom and Luke. You know what I mean? I just thought that was like divine intervention, like, you know, like something that I couldn't control. I was so excited to see you right there. I don't like the way that he's posing this people as though Tom wasn't in a box himself. Like I'm the only guy that was in a box. Like, you know, somebody else
Yeah,
be out there.
but see, there's a difference here. Okay, the difference
Okay.
is that I was in a box only at the last second because one of our
hmm
great sponsors, Encore Technologies, they have that box, and John Burns was kind enough to let us come in there that night at the last minute. You, on the other hand, every time you roll into town, I mean, is that because you're such – I'm being serious here for a second because I was talking to Casey and Brandon about this. When I looked over in that box, you're in there. You have this incredible social media following, social influencer, I think is the correct term, right? You've got this woman who goes by the commish, Yaz, I think she goes by. She's a huge influencer, social media influencer with Betfred. They've lined up with the Bengals to be their gambling partner once it becomes illegal in Ohio. There are obviously a lot of people out there, and I'm being totally serious when I ask you this question. In this social media world, people like you and her and some others, I mean, they're people that really want you guys to be a part of this franchise, it feels like. Is that fair?
Yeah. I feel really good about, like, you know, the advancements of advertising and the advancements of organic interactions. And I think that's a part of it, you know, even if it's the tailgate, you know, which I saw you at too, is like, you know, people are recognizing that people that truly influence, you know, whether it's, you know, if you're on the optimistic side or the pessimistic side, like there's people that are truly influence all of that. And I love the fact that companies like Betfred are smart enough to realize that, you know, like these guys can really help us out. And I think it's really dope. That's what I've been trying to tell you, Tom. Like, I got to get in the building. If I can get in the building, I mean, we can go all the way to the top. So that's
Well,
one of
I
my
have
goals.
no doubt you're going to be in the building all the time. My wife, meanwhile, is ready to run me out of the building. She will not even kiss me. She says these are like a porcupine. These things going on. Okay. Now
Is
you
that
look
what
very
my wife is
handsome in
in
a
kids?
beard. You look very good. It comes in black. It looks great. Mine comes in white. It doesn't look great. So I'm going to be in savage mode through this Baltimore game. And then I'm
I think
DUN. I'm done.
I, I think
If
that's
they
the
can't
right
beat the
call.
Atlanta Falcons without Cordero Patterson the following week, without me having a beard, then they got bigger problems than both of us think they have.
Yes. Hold on. Well, hold on. The Saints is the following week because I'm gonna be in New Orleans going crazy out there now. You want to talk about some influence? We're gonna have a lot of influence out there. We're gonna have a lot of fun out there. So I'm really excited about that. But yeah, no, I got you. If we can at least carry that through Sunday night, I think
All
that'll at
right.
least carry us to a victory right there. I'm
Okay.
with you. I feel like that's a
All
good
right.
move.
Now, I just had our man in Gravens. You know who he is? Okay,
Oh
he
my God, I
said he's a
love that
big
guy.
fan of yours. Great dude. And look,
Love that
he
guy.
said he's really worried about this game against the Bengals. What are your thoughts on your buddy Joe Mixon? You guys have a close personal relationship, and I never, ever, ever want to breach that relationship you have with him on this show. It's not what I'm doing. But it made big headlines around here of him calling the offensive line into a meeting along with some of the offensive staff to sit down with those guys, and he went to Ted Karras and said, hey, look, can we all sit down and talk about what's going on in the run game? I was very impressed he did it. What are your thoughts?
Joe is one of those guys, man. I don't know if I've ever met somebody. Joe Mixon is one of those guys that I don't think I've ever met that truly does not care about anything other than being really, really good at what he does. I mean, even if they win, he's still going and watching the film like 4 or 5 times. He'll come off a plane and be like, man, I watched this thing so many times. I got to figure this out. And, and it's not that he doesn't, um, want the team to win. It's just like he wants so badly to do his part, and so I think a lot of people are trying to write him off early, and like I told him personally, I was like, it ain't your time yet, you know what I mean? So I just think that it just takes a little bit of time. If you remember last year, it just took some time for the offense to kind of kick it into gear. If you look at the numbers, the offense actually is ranked pretty high in a lot of different things. It's just the defense has been playing really, really well. People are questioning opponents that they played. They weren't questioning opponents before we played the Dolphins because the Dolphins were the hottest thing smoking when they came in Thursday night. But that's just how this goes as far as being a Bengals fan. But Joe Mixon, I think, is just one of those guys, though. If you really, really value guys that love the game of football, he's at the top of the list, man. I can't even express that anymore. Like, nothing matters more than football to him.
You live there in Baltimore. For those that don't know, and you've been there, forever. You're a Bengals fan. You're right there in the eye of the storm, so to speak, with the Bengals playing the Ravens this week. Now, the Bengals dominated them twice last year. One time Lamar played, the other time he did not. What are they saying about this game there in Baltimore after this loss to the Buffalo Bills over the weekend?
Well, I'm going to just make this clear, too. It's two different worlds where I live in. I live closer to D.C. Baltimore is like an hour away, and it's almost like I imagine if I was in Ohio and somebody said, "Oh, I live in Columbus versus I don't know Cincinnati or something like that." It's totally different in that regard, but we are close enough. So I do have most of my friends or whatever are Washington football team or Commander fans, right? But the Ravens fans that I do know feel really confident, I think, in the game in regards to they like where their offense is going. And truly, I'm gonna just tell you the honest to God truth. I don't think and we learned this after the Bengals went to the Super Bowl. Ravens fans just they don't look at the Bengals as though like they're a formidable opponent. They
Right.
look at us like we're the Cleveland Browns. Like, and then when you show them like the head-to-head matchup, when you show them how many interceptions Joe Flacco threw, you show them anything you want, they'd be like, oh, I mean, yeah, that happened, but it's not like y'all the Steelers. And then in our minds, we're looking at them like, hey, like we collectively hate the Steelers together, right? And then after we went to the Super Bowl, I think like a lot of whatever, jealousy, whatever, I don't know, just came spewing out. So the ones that I talk to feel really confident that they're going to stomp a mud hole into the Bengals. I haven't met one Ravens fan. Ink Raven, and the reason why I love him is because he's so truthful and so truthful to what he truly believes. And I value that so much. And I just think that it was amazing he came on your show too, because I just think that that's one of the most honest opinions you'll ever get in football. And the fans that I know, they don't value the Bengals like that. They think that they only lost because of injuries. And if they lose on Sunday night, they'll blame the coordinator, they'll blame injuries. They won't ever tell you that the Bengals are good. I know
Yeah.
that for a fact.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised to hear that, though. I mean, when you're the quote-unquote, let's face it, I mean, seemingly forever, going back to when they started the franchise here in Baltimore and moved from Cleveland, Brian Billick takes over. They're in the playoffs every year. They win the Super Bowl one year. They got the dominant defense. Everybody knows about that. And then John Harbaugh comes in. Flacco comes in. They go to the playoffs, I think, Flacco's first 6 or 7 years, win a Super Bowl. So, look, I mean, I get it, why they might, quote-unquote, look down their noses a little bit based on the past against the Bengals. But like he just said a little while ago, Now all of a sudden you're going, well, Joe Burrow's first full year, they go to the Super Bowl. They got Jamar Chase. They got T. Higgins. They got Tyler Boyd. They got Joe Mixon. Now they got Hayden Hurst, who looks like he's becoming a bigger part of this offense. I don't know how in the world, even if you're the most ardent Ravens fan, how at this point in time you could continue to look down your nose at the Bengals. I don't get it.
I'm still trying to figure it out because even the calling card of the Ravens is the defense. They're
Yeah.
giving up more passing yards in the NFL than any team in the NFL currently right now. And then when you look at what the Bengals have done on defense, they're like top five in every single category. Like the matchup, and then Vegas is letting you know just from an odds maker standpoint, they have home field advantage. So they gave them the 3 points. So that's pretty much they're calling it a coin flip anyway. But a lot of that is predicated, and a lot of that is to push the action to make sure that people bet it, because more people in the United States are going to bet for the Ravens versus the Bengals. If you're looking at the game for what it's worth, like coming into this matchup, it doesn't look to be in the Ravens' favor, in my opinion. Like, and I like to look at it like objectively as possible. But if you don't have an extreme pass rush, I just don't feel like you can bother Joe Burrow and the Bengals. I really don't.
You're sitting in that big league kitchen today that's sitting there behind you in your estate out in the woods somewhere outside of D.C. We won't say where that is. It's probably near Langley or Quantico or somewhere like that where you're dialed in with the CIA and the FBI and you know all those people. They're your friends. They're your neighbors. We found out the last couple of weeks that you're quite the woodsy man, if you would. So can you give us any kind of update on something woodsy you have done the last week or so?
Well, I was out of town, so
You weren't woodsy in Cincinnati, I can tell you that.
I wasn't woodsy out there. I go back to my roots, and I just kind of, well, I was a little woodsy. I had my drinks with me, and I keep it moving with my guys and stuff. And man, how about that tailgate? Can I go back to that tailgate real quick?
Of
That was
course
a
you
really good.
can.
Our guys, Bengals Gym and those guys over there, they do an excellent job. They raised a good amount of money. I just thought like the atmosphere, everything was really dope there, and I just wanted to shout out like the Bengals fans that really showed up. And how about the atmosphere? We were in there. Like I know you called so many games. Like how was that to see like an all white crowd at a Bengals game? Like how did that
It was
make you?
unbelievable. It was unbelievable. I mean, I said it, the Friday after, is that we're so used to seeing that in the college environment, especially Penn State. And if they win this week and the next week after that, Ohio State will go rolling in there on a primetime game on a Saturday night. There'll be 110,000 people, whatever it is. There'll be a big whiteout. Never see it at a pro game. And it felt like, although, again, you're sitting up there with the highfalutin folks, but it certainly felt like it was a college environment there right from the very beginning, from tailgating right into the game.
I was, people were asking me, like how was it? And I was like, man, it was one of the best crowds that I've ever been at a Bengals stadium, or a Bengals game, and I just thought it was awesome, man. I wanted to get I didn't know if I was off base or I was overselling it because I
No,
really I
no.
value your opinion because you're used to being in boxes and stuff like that. So I just thought that maybe from your standpoint, like it maybe looked a little different. I don't know if you've ever even sat like with the common folk down at the
Yes, I
box. Like,
have. As a matter of fact, Luke and I went to the Jacksonville game last year on that Thursday night. We sat there with the regular folks. We went to the Ohio State-Michigan game a year ago, sat right down there in the corner
okay.
of the end zone, going crazy. Hopefully we're going to go back to that Buckeyes-Michigan game in Columbus this year. That'll be a big-time game. Before I let you go, you never answered my question. Have you done anything woodsy since getting back home?
No, when I came back, it's the same old thing. It's the pond action. I need to make sure my water. I gotta test the water when I come back. Make sure the pH levels and everything are fine. So get that stuff straight. Clear out some filters. Make sure I get the net flush over the top because there's lots of birds out here too, Tom. Lots of ravens that are
Yeah.
always trying to take over what I'm doing over here at my pond. So I think it's kind of like a microcosm of what's going to happen on Sunday night. I must protect the fish that we're trying to get to swim, the burrow babies that I like to call them out there. And after that, we can swim to success. How's
Very,
that?
very nice. Okay, you got a prediction on the what, guys? You got something for Zim?
Well, I was going to ask Zim. Zim was too cool to hang out with me when he was in town last time. You
He
and
is.
Tom
Man.
both big. You and Tom both big timed me.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we'll continue to do so, I might add.
I was gonna say,
Seho was hanging out with the stars, and I was old and washed, and I went back to my room, and Seho was like, "Where you at?" He's out there hanging with the big dogs.
I thought
hanging with me.
I thought you would have been out partying all night long after that victory, but maybe it got the best of you at the game.
Man, look. Sponsors are here, I'm sure, but I wasn't in my best element through most of the game. So by the time the game was over, I was like,
Yeah, you were done. You were done. Your
I was done.
wife had to keep an eye on you, and and God bless her for getting you back to your hotel safe and sound, and everything's cool. You're definitely going to the game this week in Baltimore, right?
for sure.
Now, I'm curious, and I mean this because some home crowds are different than and I've done a number of games in Baltimore on television, but I'm sitting up there at the 50-yard line and the whole 9 yards. But the atmosphere is phenomenal. It used to be I'd have lost a lot of money if I were a gambler. It used to be that the Ravens never lost in that place. When you go there and you got all your Bengal stuff on and you're hooting and hollering and all that kind of thing. Are you fearful from the fans around you that something bad could happen, or are they okay?
No, I've never had a problem at like any of these games, honestly. Like, like now that I'm getting more notoriety, I guess, maybe somebody might say, "Oh, there goes that Zim dude," you know what I mean? But like at the same time, I'm so locked in, I'm so focused on the game, like I only really celebrate like with Bengals fans, and it's kind of like anything in life, like, I don't really send energy towards like people I don't really know and stuff like that. Like I don't even there's the typical guy that says, "Oh, let me buy you a drink." It's no, I'm good, and I'm really locked into the football game. And if that's a problem for somebody, then that's not my problem. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean. Casey?
yeah, I mean, I'll tell you this. People usually hate the Steelers more than the Ravens. That's just kind of how it usually goes. Me growing up, I hated the Ravens more. And I have a very special story to tell. About to expose my father on this one. We were all going to a Ravens game, and this was like in the third or fourth quarter. The Bengals are down by like a score or two, like 10 points, something like that. Andy Dalton fumbles the ball, and these Ravens fans were just behind us being belligerent the whole game, and we had caught them beer dipping. I don't know if anyone's familiar with that. They stick your fingers down in their beer cups and flip beer onto people, right? And
Who does that?
it's terrible, right? It's a terrible concept, terrible idea.
You're wasting beer. It's like $14 a beer. I'm drinking every ounce of that.
And as soon as they picked it up, and the Ravens fans just literally dumped their entire beer on my family, pretty much. My dad turns around, grabs the guy by his collar, and is getting ready to just sock him right in the face. My whole family jumps in. It's a huge pile up.
Wow.
The Bengals kick us out when they were drunk and just belligerent. And other Bengals fans didn't help us out. They weren't protecting us.
That's pretty lame. Pretty
So,
lame indictment
ever sin-
on the Bengals home fans, I got to tell you.
Ever since then, I've hated the Ravens with a burning passion. So last year was a treat. This year I hope to really just rub salt in the wound. Just rub it in deep.
Yeah, I mean, I hate that you had to go through that. I think now you know Tom. You could just hang out in the suite. Just
Yeah,
call
hang out in the
Tom.
skybox.
Just go to a skybox, take the high road, hang out with Tom and his friends with the big wigs, and you don't have to go through that anymore.
See, he's painting me into a wrong corner here. My main man, Zim.
Tom,
I'm going
Tom,
south on him.
Tom, can you hook me up with some sweets at the Ravens game? I need to get protection.
Dude, I told you that I was invited at the last minute. Now, I'll run it by John Burns. I think, and he's a guy who runs, him and Larry Shakely, they own and they run Encore Technologies. It's a multi-billion-dollar company based out of here in Cincinnati. and I'll run it by him. I'll just say,
All
hey,
I need
look. Well, you need two. Are you bringing your wife every week? Your son? What?
No, no, just me and one of my buddies.
Who's your buddy?
Am I one of your buddies?
You can be one of my buddies. You want to come to the game with me? Or Tom. Everybody, the game's on you. Say, where did you end up
Well,
partying,
if
man?
we start getting more sponsors on this show, I was notified by a buddy of mine the other day who is a very successful businessman here in town, Jeff Gibson. And he said, look, if that show starts getting advertising and you guys start making some money off that, maybe one day Chatterbox Sports, we buy our own skybox. And if that happens, you're there every week. I'm not so sure about Brandon and Casey, but you will be there every single week.
If you want to have a good time, you'll invite me.
The prices at Paycor box suites or whatever went up double in this all season.
I'm not surprised.
They went from 50 to 100.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Not surprised at all.
Isn't
That's
that crazy?
the price of doing. Well, I mean, it is. It's a price of doing business. I mean, it is what it is. That's okay. Zim, you take care of yourself, and we'll get a full report from you after the game on Sunday night. So God bless you, you and your family. Tell your bride I said hello, your son, and we'll catch up next week.
All right. Thank you for having me. Talk to you guys soon.
My main man, Zim Houday. Follow him all the time. You'll know what's happening with the Bengalis.